Hello everyone, welcome to our Juventus Coaching YouTube channel. In this video, we will be going over attacking principles in Zone 3. What we want to do with the ball when we attack in the final third. You can see here on the tactical board, our team is in blue, our back four, three midfielders, and the three players up front in a classic 4-3-3. As we discussed previously in other videos, we can also play with two pivots and a number 10 for a 4-2-3-1 formation. Now, keep in mind in this video, we will be showing the principles with the 11v11 formation. However, these attacking principles apply across the board and are also implemented in 7v7 and 9v9 formations. If you need more specific visuals, you can refer to our Mesocycle PDFs. The first principle that we will be looking at today when it comes to attacking in the final third is the numerical advantage in the flanks. For example, if the ball gets played on this side, we have our fullback on the ball, we have our winger, and we have our midfielder. Number 9 is also potentially getting involved. So in this situation, we have a clear 3 versus 2. We have numerical advantage that gives us options to combine, use the space, and create goal scoring chances. Keep in mind, this numerical advantage does not happen if our fullback does not get involved. So this is something that needs to be emphasized. We want our fullbacks to participate in the attack, even in the final third. Same for 9v9 and 7v7. Our wide players, our wing backs, they need to push up, move forward, and attack in the final third to again create this overload that can be very dangerous in our attack. Of course, our midfielder also needs to understand that they're responsible and play a key role in creating that overload with the winger and the fullback. One thing to notice that's more of a transition principle is as our fullback attacks on this side, we want the fullback on the opposite side of the field to be cautious. We don't necessarily want him to push up because that leaves only two defenders to defend a potential counterattack. So as one fullback is pushing up the field, the other one is being more conservative and staying in a position that would allow them to properly defend and support the center backs in a loss of possession and transition by the opponent. The second principle that we want to highlight in the final third is the role of the number 9. So the number 9, whenever we possess the ball in the final third, has to start high, meaning they have to create depth and they have to pin and stress the back line. Sometimes we want to help our teammates, we want to get close to the ball, we want to support, we want to give the passing angle, we want to receive to score, and that causes the number 9 to be drawn to the ball. However, if the number 9 keeps getting drawn to the ball, he or she only helps the back line push up the field, squeeze, and reduce the space in between the lines that we actually want to create, right? And in this situation, it's too tight and too narrow to play any kind of ball. However, if the number 9 starts high, they automatically pin the back line and give structure to their defensive shape. As you can see, they go a bit higher, they occupy the two center backs, all of a sudden we have space in between the lines to play. All right, so the reason why the number 9 has to stay high is because they need to fix the back line in a position of the field that gives us advantage in the attack. They start high. However, that doesn't mean they cannot check, right? But they have to start high in order to check into space. If they start here, they have no space to check into. They start high, then they have space to check in. And we actually, once a space in between the lines is created, we want the number 9 to check in. This is a key movement in our attack. Because if the number 9 checks in and the two center backs don't follow, great. The number 9 can receive, dribble forward, and attack the back four. If one of the two center backs follows the number 9, the number 9 just created this space for our 8 or our 10 to make the run and attack the space in behind. Okay, so again, the number 9, by starting high, they create that space in between the lines. They then check into that space and they force the defenders to make a choice. We stay, great. The number 9 receives, dribbles at the back line. We follow, we're leaving space for our midfielders to attack the space in behind the line. Another principles we want to coach and highlight in games is the wingers attacking the back line and wingers being able to play 1v1s. As wingers start wide and we work the ball through the final third, we want wingers to make these kind of runs and break lines and attack the space in behind. Of course, that run has to be timed. However, if that run is done properly and we can hit that pass, our wingers can be in a very dangerous position. So again, we start wide, but then we look to exploit and use the space in behind. We highlighted these two zones in red because statistically they're very high XG zones. XG meaning expected goals. In soccer, it has been statistically proven that when a team is able to work the ball in these two red zones, statistically they have a very high chance of scoring a goal. Because once the ball gets here, it can be a cutback cross for a finish, it can be a cross for a tap in, it can be a shot. So we want our wingers to be able to break lines, attack the space in behind the line, and receive a through ball from our midfielders or from a third man combination between midfielders and striker. Second point about wingers, as we create numerical advantages on the flank, we're going to have chances to play 1v1s. And our Juventus methodology of training has 1v1 elements in our training sessions since they're 8 years old. So we want to encourage our players, especially in the final third, to be brave, to be creative, and to have the courage to take on people 1v1s. Ideally, we have players on the wings who are able to have those skills and to play those 1v1 situations, and we want them to take those chances. We don't want to be the kind of coaches that say pass, 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 release, release. Once the ball is worked on these two sides of the field and our wingers are in a 1v1 situation, we want them to take players on and create those goal scoring opportunities. Again, we train 1v1 situations, so it is important that we highlight to our players, okay, if the ball gets worked up here, we want to have that 1v1. We want them to play that 1v1 to be their defender, cross, shoot, combine, and score. When we have the numerical advantage on one side of the field, we want to use and train certain combinations, certain movements to make sure that that numerical advantage gets used to our advantage. That can be done with overlapping runs, can be done with underlapping runs, runs in behind. So those three players have to combine and have to be creative in those combinations. Another principle to highlight in the final third is the key occupation of certain spaces in the box. We speak a lot about creating numerical advantages on the flanks, playing 1v1s, and that will often result in crosses. However, for crosses to be used effectively, we need to occupy certain areas of the box properly. We created this chart, this diagram of the box, with three main areas that we want to occupy. If the ball is here, we need players to occupy the front post area, the back post area, and the penalty spot area. These areas are the spots where the ball is most likely to end up and where we can finish from. If there's a cross to the near post, we have someone there. If the cross is long, we have someone at the back post. If there's a cutback cross, we have someone ready to finish at the top of the box. So we need to make sure that when we work in the final third, we highlight to our players these 3 zones to occupy whenever one of our teammates is in a position to cross. And it's not about, oh, like you go here, you go here, you go here. As long as they know these areas to occupy, then they can figure it out. Sometimes the number 9 can check into the near post. Sometimes they can go back post. It all becomes their decision. Like where, depending where they are in that specific moment of the play, they will adjust and occupy these specific zones. Again, it's not about the number 9 goes here, number 10, number 7, number 8. It is about where you find yourself at that moment, where your teammates are, and just making sure we're occupying those key areas in the box to finish. We're also going to talk about, this is a more advanced principle, maybe for 11v11 teams, how to outnumber and outplay a back line in the final third. Okay, we see here we have positioned a back 4 in red of the opponent. The way we can outnumber and outplay this back line is through what we call, or what I call, the 5 containers of positional play. Why containers? I use the word container because it is an image of something that needs to be filled. Let's go over the 5 containers or the 5 zones of positional play. We have the width. These are the 2 width containers, 1 and 2. We have the finishing and we have the half space. So you see, these are the 5 containers. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. When we have the ball in the final third, if we are able to fill these 5 containers, we will give trouble to the back 4. Now notice, the 5 containers are not in a straight line. If they were in a straight line, it would be very easy to defend. The 2 containers in the half space are actually positioned in a different line compared to the 3 attackers. Why? Again, if I'm here, I'm forcing this center back to make a choice. They can step up to me and leave space for my teammate, or they can cover my teammate and leave space to me. Okay, so again, we have the 2 width containers, we have the finishing containers, and we have the half space containers. We can tell our players, if we fill those 5 containers, we are going to outnumber and outplay the back line. Going back to a point that I mentioned earlier, these 5 containers don't need to be filled by specific positions. This is not just for the 10, this is not just for the 9, this is not just for our winger, right? When we get to the final third, we want our players to be less schematic, less robotic, less mechanical, less pattern. You do this, you're restricted, you're caged to a certain area of the field. We want them to be creative. Of course, we have our principles of play, and they're a guide. Imagine the principles of play as a compass. But then our players have to choose the direction where to go depending on how they read the situations. We don't want to create robots on the field. To advance a proper project of player development, we want our players to grow and learn how to read these situations and act accordingly. So the principles are the compass, but they have to decide the direction depending on what situation they read on the field. So again, this container can be filled by a winger, but it can also be filled by a fullback. This container can be filled by a number 10, but the container can also be filled by the number 9, and vice versa. Right? So as long as the players understand the principles, they can have a creative, fluid, and exciting style of play in the final third. Let us know if you have any questions in the comments, and We will see you soon in another video.